All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Most of you should have submitted the pre-test by now. So at the top layer in Schoology, we're just going to go ahead and start Photoshop. For now, we are going to start in CS6 version of Photoshop, which is a real comprehensive and solid version. It's just not the brand new one. We may work with that a little further down the road. So our first part of Photoshop is group instruction, intro to the interface, and using text. Text is one of the most important components of our projects and most powerful. But we want to be able to improve upon existing text and make it match whatever we're trying to design. So you'll see that this is blank right now. Work with your teacher to view the Photoshop interface and create text. Submit your work as a PNG. As I develop this, I'll add the instructional video and some more points in here, but this is what we're going to be working on. So for us, we're going to come down to the Start menu. I already have it pinned to this menu. You should see if this is all grouped. You can just scroll down and see. So I have all my 2019, but I need to get down to, let me see, where is it even at here? You should be looking in Adobe Master Collection CS6. And I know there's a ton of stuff on this menu, so you got to kind of look through it. So it's alphabetical, so if I go to Adobe Master, I'm right here. Then Master Collection. So this is a little, like I said, it's just a little bit older, but it's very quality product. So I'm going to scroll down here, and we need to make sure we're doing Photoshop CS6 64-bit. That's where I'm working from here. Adobe Photoshop CS6 64-bit. Then I'll go ahead and select that and let it load. Give it just a minute here. So you can see Photoshop has loaded for me. The first thing I did, because I've used this before, so this is to bail you guys out, because what we do is we change a lot when we do this, when we do Adobe Illustrator. This is one of the more important things to just memorize. This is a memorization thing. You guys need to know how to do this. If your interface gets all goofed up, like you're missing Windows tabs, it's just a mess from all your projects, come up here to Window, and this is essentially, you can see here, called Essentials. So like we make all kinds of different settings here and it just turns into a mess. You reset Essentials and this loads everything like it was the very first time you used Photoshop. So that's just something to commit to memory. Another thing is you guys are working on wide screens in the lab, and my screen is going to be narrower, so sometimes some of the menus may not match what you guys have. So today is going to be about taking a look at all these toolbars and introducing text. So as we look at this, this is the best way to describe this. On the right hand side, you're seeing panels. The most important thing you're going to work with in this toolbar is going to be layers, because layers are essentially how we build everything. We stack up everything to create an illusion or whatever we want to depict in our assignment. Over here on the left is our toolbars. Now each of these, I can right click to see the options, or I hold down the mouse and it will load all the options. So when we first glance at it, it looks like we got 10 or 12 tools, but actually all these can have 2, 3, 4, 8 options under them. So those are the first two things to really be familiar with, is that to access these, hold down, right click, or hold down the mouse and it will come up with the extra items. The one thing it generally does is it keeps the last icon you used. So sometimes these will change a little bit because you've used a different one. The first group of tools we call selection tools. Selection is what we want to work with in the project. So if you just want to work on a certain small part of the object, you would pick these. So we call these selection tools. We have marquee tools. The lasso tools, again, these are all to create selections and how you outline stuff. Getting good with these are awesome, because if you want to cut out somebody out of a picture, it's really hard to do by hand, isn't it? But, especially drawn with a mouse. But if you take a lasso, it recognizes change in color contrast, so you just move the mouse along the edge and it snaps to it. It's really cool. So lots of different selection tools, crop tools. Eyedropper, you'll see, is one of our best friends. It lets us go ahead and grab color. We'll do that more as we get going. So if there's a color in a certain object we want to replicate, it's like taking an eyedropper, sucking the color out so that we know what colors we want to use. We get down a little further in our toolbar and we have editing tools, healing brush. These are things just to fix little color issues. We have all kinds of other tools to customize it, getting to the more artistic approach. We'll work through those as we go. Shape tools are also down here, filling in items. Then, of course, panels tool. The main thing we need to be working with as we start is layers. We won't get too much into these other tools right away, other than to know these are called panels. You can turn these on or off. So if I tell you you need a certain panel, you can come to Window and turn them on. Because right now paragraph style is turned off. So I would just click it and it launches all the options for paragraph style. It's blank right now because we don't have anything active. So we could turn that off. So again, that's under Windows to turn on anything, and it pops into this toolbar or this panel. These can also be customized. We'll use that more probably when we get to Illustrator. Now, creating an image itself. I'm going to come up here and we're going to for now, let's all do the same thing. So I'm going to do File and New. So I'm creating a new image and you should get a window like this. My setting defaults might be a little different than yours, simply because I've been working in this before. So I'm just going to type in what I want. So we are going to do 450, change it to pixels. And it's kind of funny, actually, because what happened if we left it at inches? 450 inches is like 40 feet. Okay? So imagine when I save that picture what it does. It creates like a 10 gigabyte picture. And it was so funny, we had an assignment and everybody, it's like 3 or 4 people, every time we did the assignment, their computers would lock up. We couldn't figure out why. When they started it, the previous assignment was in inches or pixels, like 500 by 500. When we switched to this assignment, the next assignment was 500 by 500 pixels. And so everybody was that's why their machine was locking up, as it was creating this giant product. So double check you are in pixels. The next item is to look at is resolution. That's how detailed it is. For now, just switch it to 72, which is pretty much a default. It makes it a little easier when we're working with text, because you guys are used to when you type 12-point font being a certain size, like you're typing a document. When we change resolution, it changes how font sizes appear to us. The next thing here is what color of background when we create a new project. And it defaults to white. I personally always go with the transparent background, but since I want you to see some features and everything, we're going to leave it at white for today. More when I get into some more advanced designs, I always go with you can always switch your background to transparent. I just start there for my own preference of working. But for now, let's all start with white. Your color mode, is your default 8 RGB? Yeah. Okay. Which is fine. RGB color is if we're doing any designs, it would just stay on a computer. We would change the color profile if we were doing printouts and stuff. So for now, hit OK. And you should have got a document that looks something similar to mine. One of the key tools, like I'm not super great at hotkeys, but one of your best friends in Photoshop will be zooming in and out, which is Alt mouse wheel. So if you take a look down on your keyboard, hit the Alt key and scroll the mouse wheel, you should zoom in and out. So that's how you do it in Photoshop. There's other ways too, but to me that's the fastest way when I'm working is Alt mouse wheel. Now if you look over in the layers panel, you see it created a background layer and labeled it background. In your toolbar, if you go about 10 of them down, you'll see a T. And that stands for text. So anytime I want to add text, and then you'll see how my icon switched. So now my text tool is active. Nothing fancy, just like any other program you'd use. You click and draw a text box. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw my text box. And my cursor is blinking. Now any tool you use is going to have its own toolbar. So if I look at the top, now that my tool is active, my text tool, I have active text box, notice my toolbar across the top. You see how it's switched? Any tool I select is going to have its own toolbar across the top. It's going to have its own list of commands. So now as we look at that, I can see I can change the font style, font size, and font color. So let's all go with red to start. So this box that's black, I'm going to click on it, and it actually comes up with the color wheel. For this to work, you click what primary colors you want, and then you can come over here and select. So you click in here to grab the rest of the colors, and then you can make a selection. So I'm going to click what I say we were doing, red. So I click in these reds, and then I can just click and pick out a red, and then select OK. If you have a short last name, double space between your letters. Because what that lets you do is when you want to customize designs, gives you more room to apply a design. If I scrunch the letters together and I do something with the text fancy, you can't see the fancy design you put on. So spread it out a little. Even if your name's a little longer, try double spacing in between. I'm going to go with, I'm probably going to switch mine to size 48. And just work with me for now. You're going to have a chance to work on your own here. It kind of depends how big your last name is. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 60. And then I'm going to click centering, which this should all be stuff you guys have seen before on a computer. And then I'm going to double space. So I'm going to... So that's what my last name comes out, and I have a lot of spacing. You'll see at the top in the toolbars, those of you on a wide screen, it might be further across the top. There's a check mark, which means approve what you've done. So I'm going to hit that check mark, and now it's exited from typing. What you'll notice is that, everybody look up real quick, look up. This is the #1 problem I have in working with text. Let's say I want to fix it. I spelled my name wrong, want to add something to it. If I click just outside of that box I made, you know, with the dotted lines, it's going to add another text layer. And I always get frustrated. So I go to type something like, maybe underneath I want like Stark Industries or something. But my box I drew for this is bigger. It's going to goof everything up. So you got to be a little careful. So if I want a new text box, I might draw it down here. Because if I come up here, you see how it went away? My icon, you see the difference? So this means I can click back in, look at your layer panel, and you see how it already labeled it? So that's a common mistake I have with text, is that I either click in or out, and then if I need a new text layer, I need to make sure I'm off that one. Now the very top tool in your toolbar is called the Move tool. So I'm just going to click that and then move my name right to the middle. So I just click the Move tool at the top. So what that does, it turns us out of the text editor. So it basically shut the text editor off, and now we're just working on our text layer. So I can move this around wherever I wanted and it wouldn't hurt the text. Again, if I wanted to fix the text, I could click the text tool, make sure I click back in it. So we have lots of options right here. In your panel, go up to the word swatches. On the top right, you'll see a panel called swatches. These are default color settings. The cool thing about swatches is when, let's say we're coloring something and it's a custom color and we don't want to lose it, we can actually put it in these empty slots in the swatches. We'll work at that when we get a little further along. Now go down just below that and you should see Styles, the Styles tab. Then what these do is these apply styles to whatever you have selected, especially with text. So double check, keep listening, look up here real quick. When we start working, as we improve our project, you're going to have lots of layers. I mean, we'll have if we get the chance to do animation, you'll have 150 layers in here. So you got to make sure you're on the correct layers. Okay, pretty simple now. We have the background or the main layer. So just double check as we progress that you are applying effects to the layer you want. You can always undo it if you goof it up, obviously, but it helps you just to stay organized. Double check you're on the right layer. So go ahead and just check this out. Take a few minutes, you click on your name and click on these different styles you see, and you'll see that applies different looks to your text. Mine did take a second to load. So just pause if it's being a little slow for you. And if you apply the style, let's turn it back off. So you'll just go to the not symbol here in Styles. I had to hit it twice to turn it off. Now, all those styles were basically applied to the layer. So again, double check you're on that layer, and I can come up here to Layer, and then go to Layer Style. And then I'm just going to hit, let me see which one I want. Just hit the top one there. Let me repeat that. Layer, Layer Style. Now I'm just going to hit Blending Options, because then it'll launch the menu I want to look at. This will be a little easier for you with a wider screen since my aspect ratio is different, but just move it to the side a little bit so you can see your text. What each of these do is essentially what we looked at in the styles was a combination of this screen here of making different choices. So if I click Bevel and Emboss, you can kind of see my text took on a bevel and emboss look. Each of these has a customization, color, thickness, all kinds of items. Then I just turn it off. A stroke is basically the same as saying outline. I can do it, blend it, have it wider, narrower. Then just make sure you click on the option. I was still on the blending options. So even if I turn it on, I need to click the item. So then I can turn all this on or off. Then you can change the transparency too. So I could just have a little gray. So it's kind of cool. Same thing with all this stuff. We have different glows, overlays, outer glows, inner glows. All kinds of stuff we could do to our text. So I'm going to cancel that. Stay with me. I know I'm talking a lot. Stay with me. Want to show you just one more thing here, and then we'll take some time to work. Now, all these things we looked at can do cool stuff. And it's basically the software is doing it for us, but now we want to get to where we are making the design. So what I'm going to do is come over to your layers panel on the right. This got hard for students to understand, and it always causes a problem throughout the semester. So the sooner you memorize it, it's going to help you more. And what that is there's multiple right-click options on your layers panel. It depends where you click. So if I right-click over this icon, it's going to be different than if I right-click over this part where the title of it is. Okay? So sometimes people, Mr. House, Mr. House. Mine doesn't have those options. There's a right-click here and a right-click here. So what I want to do is on my name, I'm just going to right-click and select Duplicate Layer. And you can just leave it at the default name. As you progress and do more advanced projects, you probably want to get into naming your layers because they're going to be a lot more complex. Okay? Then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the original. So to hide anything, I just click the eyeball. So now, if you look here, I've hit this one, and I have this one active. Everybody follow? So this is one when I go to use the move tool, is the one that's going to move. But what I want to do is I'm going to come back to my text tool, select this, and change it to blue. So I'm going to come back, text tool. I'm going to highlight my text. It's a duplicate, so it's in red. Now I'm just going to go ahead and grab a blue color here. Then I'm going to switch back to my move tool. Now, how these layers stack up, it's straight like you look at it. So whatever is on the top is going to appear over the top. So what I'm going to do here is actually then turn this one back on. And I'm just going to kind of tinker with this just for fun. And then I'm going to go back to my red layer. So I'm going to select my red layer. And then there's a couple things that are cool to work with in your layers panel. Keep listening. Is over here, opacity. Again, that's how you see through. Fill is really the density. And then you have other options of how the density is applied under here. So what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to leave the primary as blue. And my second layer here, which is red. And I'd probably come back if I was going to work for this a while. I'd just do house blue, house red, just so I knew what layer it was. And I'm going to tinker with this fill just to kind of give it a little special effect. All kinds of other options here. Oops, that didn't work very good. So that's how, you know, if you guys went through all the styles, there was one that had like the shadow. This is creating my own shadow. So like if you've ever seen somebody use text that like it's on fire or it's icicles, this is stage one of doing that because you would duplicate it first. Because basically you're taking all the layers and modifying them to give the appearance of fire or being frozen, that kind of thing, dripping icicles off of it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to another tool. So I'm going to stay on my red layer. So I'm actually going to hide the blue one. So I'm on my bottom layer. I've changed the opacity so it's a little lighter. And I'm going to come down here to the smudge tool, which is your default, looks like an eyedrop. Do you guys have an eyedrop looking thing? Yeah. Or not an eyedropper, but a teardrop, I should say. So on that, you should have smudge. And this is a great learning thing for us. It's not letting me smudge because it says I need to rasterize. Rasterize means basically ready to modify. So after I rasterize a layer, I can't change the text anymore, which is fine. So I just hit OK. And now I could smudge. So if you look at the top toolbar, you'll see I have the smudge tool active, and that was just down here. I turn on smudge. So I have a special toolbar, and then this is how big a brush. Think of giving a bigger paintbrush when you're in art class. That's what this is. And so I'm just going to smudge this just to try a different effect. And then when I turn my name back on, you kind of give it a little effect there. And then, so I might jump back to my blue one, go to layer style, and I kind of want to try outer glow. And a light blue, powder blue. Let's see. It's just so narrow. Let's see. You can see it a little bit. Yeah, I need to work on that some more. So this is a basic introduction to some basic things we can do with text. Your assignment is to take some time, work through these tools, and just make some kind of banner of your last name that you like. Now, what do I submit? I'm going to come up here, and for CS6, it's a tad different. So I'm going to say my product's done. I'm going to do File. And we always have two files. There's the product, which is what we designed in Photoshop. It's the Photoshop file. And then finally, the project, and then the product. So I'm going to save as. I would go ahead and go to my folder. And you guys should have created your folder in File Stream. I'm just going to do a quick save here. So this is my last name project. And so that saved the Photoshop part. Now I need to create it as a picture because it's not a picture yet. And it's going to be essential in this class you turn in the picture, not the Photoshop file, because I can't see it in Schoology when you submit it. So I'm going to do Save for Web. And now yours is going to default different. We want everything as PNG 24. So I hit this drop-down list on the top right. Then I hit Save. And then I'm done. Then that file is what I will submit to Schoology. And if you have any issues for submitting our first assignment, make sure you ask. So if I jump back over to Schoology, oops. This is where you should submit it because this is just our practice of working with text. But I definitely want you to take some time and work on it. So spend until the end of class. If we need to, we can also submit them the next time we meet.